Hello everyone, today is 5th of February, now it's about 9 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today, at evening time, I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and if you are looking for more news from Russia, more commentary, a better understanding of Russian or pro-Russian views on major geopolitical developments, or if you like my work and want to support her, I hope you will consider to join our communities on Patreon and the Boosty. That will be greater support for this small independent media project from Russia. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said. Let's go through some news, and we have some really major developments. Main news, obviously at this point, or breaking news even, is coming from US when Trump, before meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and during the meeting, made some astonishing statements. One may argue that quite wild statements. Before meeting with Netanyahu, Trump reiterated himself that he is favoring removal of Palestinians from Gaza Strip. He called the area demolition site, and according to him, this site will be in such a state for another 10 or 15 years. So therefore, he's trying to justify removal of the locals by saying that it will be better for them to move from this area, and meanwhile, US will take over the region and lead the charge to clean up the territory from rubble, from unexploded ordnance, from all the hazard. Right, and then I guess US will lead the rebuilding of the site for future residents. He did not specify who's gonna be that future residents, but if you remember, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, during one of his interviews quite a while ago now, stated openly, without any shame, that he sees great potential in a region to do business, to do some building work, right? And Trump, as we all know, was known as businessman that is mainly operates in this field of construction work and so on. So I guess whomever they mean that will return to this area or to live in this area, they have no, they don't mean Palestinians, right? But yet again, let him clarify his statements. During a conversation with Netanyahu, he once again stated that he is in favor of removing Palestinians from Gaza Strip. 1.7 million people or 1.9 million people, he don't really cares. He wants everybody to be removed from Gaza Strip to Egypt, Jordan, or elsewhere. He don't cares about that either, right? At least that's the impression that he is leaving on many people, right? And as I already said, by the way, he stated openly that US will take over Gaza. So let's go through this news here. For example, US President Donald Trump has announced that United States will assume control over the Gaza Strip, vowing to rebuild the war-torn enclave and create economic opportunities for the future residents. Yet again, he didn't clarify who these future residents are, right? Everybody understands that once Zionists will force out Palestinians from this area, they will never ever allow them back, right? When asked whether US troops would be deployed in Gaza, Trump vowed to do what is necessary. Trump made the remarks on Tuesday following his meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. The US president reiterated his view that Palestinians should be permanently resettled elsewhere, adding that the US would take over Gaza and lead efforts to clear the destruction left by 15 months of war between Israel and Hamas. And then quote here, the US will take over the Gaza Strip and we will do a job with it too. We will own it and be responsible for dismantling all the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, Trump said, promising to level the site and get rid of their destroyed buildings. Asked to clarify what exactly he meant by takeover, the US leader said he envisions a long-term ownership position that would supposedly bring great stability into the entire Middle East. Everybody outspoken to leave their idea of the United States owning their piece of land, developing it, and creating thousands of jobs. Trump claimed. Trump also said he is not ruling out deploying US troops to support his Gaza development plan. We'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do it. We'll do that. We are going to take over that place, he said. Approximately 92% of homes in Gaza Strip have been destroyed or severely damaged, and around 1.9 million people, more than 90% of Gaza's population, have been displaced since the war broke out in October 2023, according to UN. Trump, a former real estate mogul, has repeatedly referred to Gaza as a demolition site in recent weeks. When asked who would populate Gaza once the US takes over and redevelops it, and whether the Palestinian people would be able to return, Trump responded, I envision the world's people living there. I think their potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable, and I think their entire world representatives from all over the world will be there and they'll live there. Palestinians also, he said, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be so magnificent. So yes, world people, maybe Palestinians also. Wow, by the way, this is I don't know, man. I mean, Trump's statements before and during the meeting with Netanyahu, and his number of statements even like a week ago in regards to Gaza Strip definitely leaves no room but to interpret it as a call from Trump to conduct ethnic cleansing in a Gaza Strip. You share your opinion, dear friends, what you think about this stuff. But I mean, if you are active on Twitter, probably you already seeing that MAGA guys, by the way, are freaking out, right? Die-hard MAGA guys are freaking out because they were thinking that America was first, right? And they actively supported this MAGA idea, Trump. And now they are facing the reality when just 2 weeks in office and Trump is about to get involved in yet another war in the Middle East and potentially provoke a new major one, right? Because what he's saying is definitely can be seen as an assault on the Muslim world in general from the West, right? Trump and the Western ruling class might think that they have a grab on the governments in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, other regional countries, and they can force them to do whatever. And theoretically speaking, that there is a reasons why they might have such an impression, but seems like they are forgetting very important nuance that people in these countries are already not happy that Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the rest of them, with few exceptions, almost did nothing to support Palestinians during Israeli onslaught, right? And if now these governments in Egypt or Jordan and Saudi Arabia and other countries will be quiet or even in support of removing Palestinians from Gaza Strip, after which obviously West Bank will be next, then I guess some processes might start in these countries that will eventually lead to regime changes, and most likely some radicals gonna take over in those countries, right? And what is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? I said many times before that Western ruling class desperately wants to provoke a major regional war in the Middle East to cut off, to distract navigation in the Persian Gulf and cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources, which will be significant, which will have significant impact on Chinese economy, obviously, right? And very serious consequences. And this is main driving force for policies of the Western ruling class in the Middle East, as far as I can tell. One of the major. And now we have statements of Trump, which gives us more or less good indicators to have an informed guess how Western ruling class gonna provoke this new major regional war in the Middle East. They failed to provoke war between Saudi Arabia and Iran because, as we all know, a couple of years ago, China broke a deal between the two, right? That was a great diplomatic victory on part of Beijing. And Saudi Arabia and Iran, since then, actually, are more and more normalizing relationships. There is even diplomatic ties resumed between the two. So once Western ruling class failed to provoke war between these major regional rivals, historical rivals even, when they start working on other ideas, seems like, and now we can see contours of a future, how this future major regional war may play out. Ethnic cleansing in Palestine, and the U.S. involvement in all of it. U.S. involvement, attacks on Iran, major destabilization of the region, and eventually war between regional countries and Israel. And while on Israeli side, we will see US, UK, and other NATO member states. So Muslim world probably already is seeing incoming crusade, sort of. That's how they're gonna judge these the developments, right? And it's gonna be devastating for a region and for the rest of the world. I hope my reading of the big picture is not accurate, and nothing like that will happen, and the region will be calm, and there will be no wars. But I mean, is it even possible? By the way, share your opinion, dear friends, what you think. But I think we are about to witness ethnic cleansing. We already witnessed genocide. We are about to witness ethnic cleansing, and major regional war is also on the horizon. It seems like. So yes, this is obviously major topic that everybody will talk about today and in upcoming days and weeks. And unfortunately, seems like Western ruling class has everything in place to provoke this major regional war. What can be done to stop these processes? I don't know. China, India, and Russia must deploy their troops or navies or something. I don't know. But something has to be done. Otherwise, Middle East is about to get engulfed in a major fire that will have impact on the entire world, by the way, in many ways. And when it comes to regional war, by the way, and preparations for it, well, according to Vzglyad newspaper, which is based on article in Axios. Information is based on article in Axios. Netanyahu, during his visit in US, will ask Trump for weapon systems that will help Israel to conduct strikes on Iran, and most likely he will receive those weapons, right? And most likely US itself will be involved, by the way, in almost inevitable at this point Israeli-US or Israeli-NATO attack on Iran. I mean, things are escalating very fast, isn't it? Things are escalating very faster, and well, yet again, maybe deployment of Russian tactical nuclear weapons to Iran might cool down these psychopaths, may bring to their senses those psychopaths in the Western ruling class, and deployment of navies from Russia, China, and India into Persian Gulf, into Red Sea. But something has to be done urgently to stop this madness. Otherwise, Middle East, as we knew it, by the way, is finished. Is about to finish. Let's continue with some more news, and we have. I mean, this is not all, by the way, when it comes to craziness that is happening in this world. Well, next news is exactly about that. Zelensky had an interview with extreme Russophobe and xenophobe in general, a despicable individual, Piers Morgan, and during his conversation, he practically demanded nuclear weapons. He issued some sort of ultimatum that either Ukraine has to be NATO or Ukraine has to have nuclear weapons. And you think why topic of nuclear weapons was raised once again? We all know why. At least I know why. I spoke many times before that, in my personal opinion, next phase of escalation with Russia, as a next phase of escalation with Russia, Western ruling class plans to transform current terrorist regime of Zelensky into a nuclear armed terrorist regime, right? And that's why constantly, by the way, on weekly basis at least, topic of nuclear Ukraine is being discussed in the Western media or Western propaganda platforms, and Piers Morgan is obviously a puppet and a tool in hands of Western ruling class, right? So let's go through this news also here. So Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky has proposed that the West should give Kyiv nuclear weapons and more missiles to stop Russia or fast-track his country into NATO. On Tuesday, British so-called journalist Piers Morgan published an excerpt from an interview with Zelensky in which he asked the Ukrainian leader why Kyiv refused any alternative to NATO membership ahead of possible peace negotiations when he knows such a proposition is outright unacceptable to Moscow. Zelensky responded that should Kyiv be prevented from joining the US-led bloc in the near future, then Ukraine will have the right to ask its Western backers what will be defending us against this evil this whole time. You are freaking evil creature, Zelensky, despicable garbage. Give us back nuclear weapons, give us missile systems, partners, help us finance 1 million army, deploy your troops in the areas of our country where we want to stabilize the situation. He went on to say, so yet again, dear friends, this false narrative that Ukraine never had nuclear weapons, which is absolutely untrue. Ukraine never had no nuclear weapons. Soviet Union did, and Russia is only legit successor of the Soviet Union And this is recognized by entire world, and that's why Russia is a permanent member of UN Security Council, right? As Soviet Union was previously. So first of all, Ukraine never had no nuclear weapons, and secondly, and most importantly, I will say, unfortunately, this topic of transformation of Kyiv regime into a nuclear armed regime is actually still seems like relevant for Western ruling class, and I guess they will go ahead with this plan if Moscow will not smash faces of the Western ruling elites immediately in near future, because in no circumstances Moscow can allow Zelensky's terrorist regime to become nuclear, right? I mean, it's just too obvious. And Russian leadership already stated that Moscow will not allow Kyiv regime to become a nuclear armed regime, right? And maybe Zelensky is talking about West to provide the Kyiv regime with nuclear weapons, which is nonsense, obviously. No Western country, no US, no UK, no France will not give Kyiv regime no nuclear weapons, but they can provide, and I'm afraid they already are providing assistance, enough assistance so that Kyiv regime will be able to build some basic atomic bombs, atomic devices based on whatever radioactive materials they have. And unfortunately, Kyiv regime thus has in its disposal significant volumes of plutonium and other radioactive isotopes that can be used to create low yield atomic bombs, right? So risk is real, and that's why I'm saying, by the way, Moscow cannot allow this next phase of escalation to happen, and therefore in relatively short time I expect Moscow's strong actions, really strong actions that will finally deter Western ruling class and their puppets in the governments of the majority of the collective West, right? Let's continue with some more news, and the Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that, Zelensky yesterday, that was, I believe, had a meeting with the head of IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, and during that meeting, Zelensky spoke about recent initiative of Trump that Ukraine should pay with its rare earth materials for whatever assistance Kyiv regime will receive from US for weapons and everything else. And Zelensky was basically forced to agree, acknowledge that territories that are especially rich with rare earth materials are already liberated by Russian forces, right? It's Donbass, by the way. It's Donbass. The Dnipropetrovsk region also has some volume of rare earth materials, and the Dnipropetrovsk region will be liberated also, obviously, but not for reasons that the West is interested in Ukraine, for reasons that Russia was displaying all the time. People in Ukraine, in this so-called Ukraine, Russian speakers, people that are part of Russian world should be and will be liberated from this Western-controlled terrorist regime of Zelensky, right? In Kharkov region, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, in Nikolaev region, Odessa region, everywhere where these people living. Western Ukraine, different story, right? Let the NATO, let the Polish government, let the Polish law enforcement agencies, let the Hungarian law enforcement agencies, let the Romanian law enforcement agencies deal with that terrorist regime in the western parts of Ukraine, and they will have no option but to deal with the Ukrainian Nazis, fascists, and the terrorists, right? Time will come, but rest of the Ukraine will be denazified, demilitarized, and they're in a sphere of influence of Russia, 100%. There can be no doubts about that, right? And what Zelensky is trying to do, by the way, is that he's basically not even lying, that he wants to to provoke war, full-scale war between NATO and Russia, right? That's why during his conversation or interview with Piers Morgan, he said that he mentioned not just nuclear weapons, but he also called NATO troops to be deployed on the battlefield in areas where Kyiv regime is especially struggling, right? Which will mean obviously direct confrontation, full-scale conflict between NATO and Russia. And during this meeting with Rafael Grossi, he also stated that intentionally, obviously, that yes, Kyiv regime is ready to trade with US with anything, right? Although, well, I mean, these territories that Trump was, these minerals that Trump was talking about are there. Those territories are controlled by Russians. So if you want it, then go and get it. That was their idea behind these statements, right? So he's trying to lay down grounds for a possible future confrontation between direct, large-scale confrontation between NATO and Russia. He's trying his best to provoke such a confrontation. At same time, he is trolling. He is trolling Western world and Trump also. That's what it is, by the way. I don't think we will see large-scale conflict between NATO and Russia, but unfortunately, as time goes by, it is becoming more and more obvious that risk that at some point somewhere there will be direct local-scale clashes between Russian and NATO militaries. Risks of that is definitely increasing and increasing and increasing. But yet again, local-scale clashes that will not provoke a full-scale war between the sides. But local-scale clashes, risk is very high that we will see local-scale clashes. When it comes to IAEA, by the way, and Grossi, well, yesterday we had information that Russian radio-electronic warfare systems suppressed 2 Ukrainian drones over the Energodar city, where Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is located. And you think Grossi said anything about it? IAEA has its experts constantly on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, so Grossi knew for sure that there was yet another attempt by Kyiv regime to strike Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Did he mention any of it? Did he said anything about it? What do you think? Of course no. Of course no about it. And that's why I think Russia should leave IAEA and never cooperate with this criminal institution that is controlled by the Western ruling class, right? But unfortunately, it seems like Moscow has different views, and therefore Grossi will be allowed to visit Russia, and this week, by the way. So Grossi, this CIA puppet, will visit Russia this week. I don't understand why Russia is playing all these games with these CIA puppets. Why Russia is not saying that, you know what, these organizations, so-called international institutions, are actually controlled by CIA, actually controlled by Western ruling class, and therefore we just don't give a damn about them no more, right? Either we are creating alternative ones or reorganizing these ones so that they might gain some trust again. Otherwise, we are done with you, right? That's the position Moscow should have, in my personal opinion. But yet again, no one is asking me, so therefore, Rafael Grossi, this criminal, will visit Russia this week, unfortunately. This animal should not be allowed to put his dirty feet on Russian soil ever, right? The CIA prostitute. That's what Rafael Grossi is. CIA dirty, cheap prostitute. That's Rafael Grossi for you. Meanwhile, RIA Novosti is reporting that ambassador of so-called Ukraine in United States, Oksana Markarova, stated that Kyiv regime is ready to discuss with Washington, topic of elections in so-called Ukraine. Although, according to her, at this point, despite the statements, despite the information in the media, Western propaganda, that Trump and his special envoy into Ukraine and Ukrainian crisis, Kellogg, despite their statements that elections should take place before end of 2025, according to Kyiv regime's ambassador in US, there was no direct communication between Kyiv regime and Washington on this subject, at least for now. Reports are coming in that Kellogg, our US delegation, will visit Kyiv shortly, in a couple of days' time, and maybe they will discuss this topic then, who knows, but at this point it's only statements of some sources that are never disclosed by Western propaganda, and only these articles in Western propaganda that Trump and Kellogg are pushing for elections in Kyiv-controlled territory before end of this year. Maybe this is true, maybe not. We just don't know, because Western propaganda cannot be trusted, right? Any propaganda should not be trusted. And when it comes to West, by the way, there is no independent media no more there, right? In MSM, by the way, if you want independent sources in the West, then go into alternative media. But when it comes to MSM, there is no journalism there. Meanwhile, TASS news agency is reporting that press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, was asked about to comment on the statements of Trump that some negotiations between Washington and Kyiv, Washington and Moscow is going quite well, and not surprisingly, spokesperson of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, said that, and this is quote by the way, "We don't have anything new to add to what we have already said on this issue," which means that basically there is no contact, by the way. Despite all the statements of Trump that some sort of negotiations are going quite well somewhere, Kremlin did not receive any initiatives from Washington. There is no contact and direct communication between Trump's administration and the Kremlin, at least for now. Because that's exactly what Peskov was saying all these days, right? He was asked every single day about communication with Washington, and he was saying that no, all we hear is the statements, but when it comes to real steps, there was no communication, right? And because he said that there is nothing to add, I guess there is still, until now, no talks between administrations, at least, right? So what Trump is talking about while saying that some negotiations are doing well, and I don't know, man. Who knows? Who knows what is going on in Trump's head, by the way, right? He is well capable to say something that, not necessarily can be true, right? RT is meanwhile reporting that US is failed to track weapons sent to Ukraine. So US officials could not tell whether tens of billions of dollars of weapons sent to Ukraine were actually delivered due to tracking system failures. Reuters reported on Monday, citing sources: during the final year of former President Joe Biden's administration, key weapon shipments to Ukraine faced prolonged delays due to concerns about depleting US stockpiles and debates over whether the arms would trigger an escalation with Russia. According to Reuters' investigation, the Pentagon's chaotic weapons tracking system, in which even the definition of delivered differed among US military branches, was a significant contributor to the overall confusion. The system failure skewed the Pentagon data, making it almost impossible to actually pinpoint weapons in the shipping process, Reuters said, citing reports by the government Accountability Office investigation by the Pentagon's Inspector General and the GAO also found that the administration lacked clarity on the number of weapons delivered and the extent of the shipment delays, according to Reuters. So, I mean, you tell me, dear friends, what is going on. You tell me what is going on here. I guess this is done intentionally. Maybe this is done intentionally so that Pentagon will have a ground to say that, you know what, we send these weapons. I mean, there are some weapons that we are unaccountable for, but I mean, in reality, we send it to Kyiv regime, right? In reality, Pentagon may send these weapons to terrorist organizations that US is supporting worldwide, right? In Africa, in Middle East, in the Pacifics, and so on, right? Simultaneously, Kyiv regime can use very same topic of insufficient tracking system that US has in place to say that, you know what, US is saying that they delivered this volume of weapons, let's say 1,000 machine guns of some sort, right? Or 100 or 1,000 anti-tanker missiles, guided missiles, but in reality they did not deliver this stuff, right? So ask them about it. Meanwhile, Kyiv regime will sell these weapons yet again to all sorts of terrorist groups, criminal groups worldwide, and that's exactly what is happening, by the way, right? That's exactly what is happening. So I guess these confusions and these failures in the tracking system is actually intentional, because there is so much volume, such a volume of weapons being moved around, that it creates great opportunity for CIA and Pentagon to, you know, to take certain weapon systems and give it to all the terrorist organizations that they are supporting worldwide, right? And to sell, by the way, also on the black market and make some money on it. I remind you, dear friends, that CIA is a major contributor and always was since its creation, I guess, when it comes to drug trafficking, right? And as a factual evidence of that, I give you Afghanistan story. During the US occupation, opium production was on record high. And once Taliban took over, there is no opium production, almost none, by the way. Almost none. And you might be surprised, dear friends, but USAID, that is under scrutiny right now in US, USAID was actually financing cultivation of poppy crops, right? From which then opium is made. So yes, CIA, by the way, CIA is the most dangerous terrorist organization, criminal organization that the world has ever seen, together with MI6, obviously, British MI6. Anyways, before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that this small media project is completely subscriber funded. And if you like my work, if you think me and my channels deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with donation through PayPal or Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon or Boosty pages. I have also a crypto wallet. For last 2 days, there was not single donation to this project, which is quite unfortunate. Well, anyways, if you are interested to support, all the links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. Let's continue with some more news. And RIA Novosti is reporting about meeting between head of terrorist regime in Syria, pro-Turkish terrorist regime in Syria, and the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And according to media reports, by the way, Reuters, for example, and some Middle Eastern media sources, during the conversation, one of the topics of discussion was to build two military bases in Syria by Turkey, where Turkish F-16s will be deployed, right? So basically, Turkey is trying now to legalize its military presence in Syria and to further enlarge this military presence. Obviously, this is a significant development because now, by the way, Turkey and Israel are actually, one may say, bordering each other, because especially if there will be a large presence of Turkish army in Syria, Turkish armed forces, air force included, and also obviously we should keep in mind that Damascus is controlled by pro-Turkish forces, right? It's a pro-Turkish terrorist groups that are in charge there now. So I guess Israeli security services are somewhat wary about these developments, because maybe today Turkey is in no position to act independently from Washington and London, and the US and UK still have a strong grip on Ankara, but things might change tomorrow or day after, isn't it? And the presence of a major army, quite a capable army, on its border will be something to worry about for Israel, I guess, right? And when we are talking about some regional war, by the way, that I mentioned in the beginning of this update, well, things may escalate in the Middle East so much so that direct confrontation between Israel and regional countries, including Turkey, may already be on the horizon, and potentially even between regional countries and the US and other NATO member states that will fight alongside Israel, right? In this major war that Western ruling class is dreams to provoke, yet again to distract navigation in the Persian Gulf and cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources. So very important developments there. RIA Novosti is also reporting that US president is he doesn't know how to make headlines, isn't it? So US President Donald Trump signed a decree on the withdrawal of United States from UN Human Rights Council and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East. The White House press pool reported also, by the way, there was some report that US is also withdrawing from UNESCO and some number of other organizations. Okay. Meanwhile, by the way, TASS news agency is reporting that conversation between Trump and Xi Jinping, Chinese leader, to be held on Tuesday. A phone conversation between US President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping will be held on Tuesday. The US leader's senior counselor for trade and manufacturing, Peter Navarro, said in an open online interview with Politico, it's interesting that Trump and Xi Jinping will have a talk. After all, both countries are engaged now in a tariff war, right? Trump hold tariffs to be enforced on Mexico and Canada for 30 days, but he did not do the same in regards to China, and he imposed some 10% tariffs on Chinese goods, right? And China already responded, by the way, with its own tariffs on US goods. And leaders of two countries definitely have topics to discuss in the conversation. I only have one question, by the way. Which Tuesday? Did these presidents talk yesterday, or they will talk next Tuesday? Who knows? That's the only question I have, by the way. This should be, more clarification is needed, whenever information is written about some stuff. Anyways, two leaders are in contact, which is not bad. RIA Novosti is reporting that India will buy Russian anti-ship missiles. Contract about it already been signed, which is also good news, by the way. Good news. Cooperation between India and Russia is on good terms, and they're constantly increasing, and hopefully will stay on a good level. Always. Also interesting news that Iran and Eurasian Union, which is organization, economical union, created Eurasian Economical Union, which is created by number of former Soviet republics, including Russia. So Iran and the Eurasian Economical Union free trade agreement to be implemented this year. The agreement between Iran and the Eurasian Economical Union on the free trade zone will be implemented in 2025, after which 87% of all goods will be tax exempt. Iran's ambassador to Moscow, Kazem Jalali, told the reporters, and this is obviously good news, by the way. North-South trade route is actually working and doing quite okay, and it has a great potential. And on this very topic, we have this information that traffic via key Iranian port is up by 43%, according to New Delhi, information from New Delhi. And India is obviously also part of this north-south major member of this north-south trade route, right? So vessel traffic via the international north-south transport corridor, multimodal transport route developed by India, Russia, and Iran, soared by 43% in the 2023-2024 financial year, according to an Indian government report. Container traffic in the same period rose by 34%, the report added. I mean, huge numbers, by the way, isn't it? Huge numbers, quite impressive. And this is just the beginning. The latest edition of their economic survey, a document released annually ahead of their announcement of India's federal budget for the next fiscal year, revealed a surge in maritime activity, including via Shahid Beshehti port at Chabahar in Iran, which connects the Indian port of Mumbai to Eurasia and they're part of this international north-south transport corridor, INSTC. And also, by the way, apart from Chabahar, India has also reopened the Eastern Maritime Corridor, EMC, which connects major logistic hubs in Russia's Far East with India's southeastern coast. The Chennai-Vladivostok sea route, which connects India's second largest container hub to Russia's Far East, has a history dating back to the 1960s, when it was a key trade route between the Soviet Union and India. Officials from both countries stated that the reopening of this maritime link could offer more cost-effective and time-affecting routes for transporting essential commodities such as oil and coal from Russia to India. So yet again, dear friends, great potential. These trade routes, new trade routes that are in development, definitely are making their presence being felt across the regions, right? And by the way, this is it. This is it for now. Hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. It is really, really important, dear friends. This is the only way we can influence algorithm, or at least try. Likes and comments. And if you can, please share video with your friends, or information about this channel with your friends in real life or on the internet. And well, finally, as I already said, if you like my work and want to support, you can do it. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.